My name is Manuel Roman Lacayo. I am the Associate Director for the Center for Latin American Studies, also the Acting Director. It is my pleasure to be part of this event today on the Rice and Beans series, the first one. And today we get to share with you a little bit about the food that really fills many of our days and many of the days of people all across this continent, rice and beans. So this is food that is not just daily sustenance and calories that we ingest, but it also comes along with memories, memories of the smells of the places where we ate this food, the people that we ate the food with, the people that we loved that share these recipes with us. It is not just food, it is part of who we are. It's part of our culture, part of our traditions, and it helps us move on in the world in more ways than just the calories that they bring to our bodies. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you our executive chef, Luz Amanda Hank. I will be the sous chef for today. And Luz, take it away.
Thank you everyone for being here. First of all, I would like to say I'm not a professional chef. I like cooking. I love cooking. I've been cooking for many years, so this is just our idea of what we have done or what I have done for many years. I've been trying to cook because I'm always busy or on the run, and I try to find new ways to cook. So over the years, I've been trying to make rice and beans because it's something from home. When I was 19, I came to the States by myself the second time, and I was in Philly going to Temple, and I got hungry and I didn't know how to make rice. And I was like, what am I going to do? I want to make rice. So I called my mom, and this is the 90s, let me tell you. So the phone call was expensive. But she showed me how, or she told me how to cook rice on the phone. And that was the first time I ever made a pot of rice by myself. And she stayed on the phone. I was like, no, mommy, it's going to cost a lot. Va a valer mucho. It's like, nope, we're going to do this. And after that, I started cooking more, and being by myself, wanting to replicate what I ate home, I started cooking. So hopefully you learn something new from us. If not, you can tell us another method of how to make rice and beans that works for you. This works for me. And also the microwave version, I've been trying to tune it up and make it better, and I found a way. But your microwave might be brand new. My microwave is 15 years old, we found out today, so it's slow. I will give you instructions how long I'm putting my food in the microwave, but yours, if it's newer, I will say do less. Sometimes it's better to do less than more, even with the spices, salt, everything. Just go slow and taste. That's another secret to cooking. Just taste as you go along, and then you will know. It's better to add less than add more, and then it's not good. So here, I will turn the stove on. I will add this. I'm going to make first the stove version of it. And in between, because the microwave is less involved, I will start cooking in the microwave. Well, first, I'm going to start the rice and beans on the stove. So I add 1 or 2 spoons of oil. You can use any oil that you like. I let it warm up for a little bit. I like to saute my rice. I don't know why, but this is my personal opinion. I think it cooks faster, and also it has like a nutty flavor to it. I don't know, it has a different flavor. So any kind of rice that I have, I always saute it first. Another thing that I did at the beginning, here's the ingredients for the stove. I have the rice, the garlic, the salt, the water, and the beans. One thing I did is I added the water to make 2 cups. So keep that in mind just for this recipe. I will add now the rice to the pot, and you have to stir. Keep stirring, don't get distracted, because if not, it will get burned. I add the garlic. Usually you can use minced garlic, or you can use powdered garlic. I know this is handy when I don't have time to peel the garlic. I like a lot of garlic, so I also add the salt, a pinch. It's up to you. I usually forget to add salt, so I add it at the end. So you keep stirring for a little bit, and as you notice, I don't know if you can see, the rice starts to get a different color and a different texture, and you just keep stirring. And in about a minute or so, you will see that it starts changing colors. So here it's changing color, as you can tell. Can you see? No? Yeah? Okay. So just keep stirring and it will change color. So here is, I think is ready. So I'm going to stir it a little bit more and I will add the combination of the water and the beans. I drained the beans into this and this makes 2 cups. So then I add it. And then you stir. I usually taste. Oh, look at my sous chef. Isn't he nice? I will need a spoon too.
I don't know where they are.
You're going to be entertained. It needs more salt for mine, so I'm just adding more salt. I will stir. Manuel, you want to talk a little bit about beans and rice, or the history of it, or tidbits? Yes.
Yeah, well, one of the things that's wonderful about this whole cooking for anyone, right, is that it comes along anytime that you cook anything. Very frequently, it comes along with memories, right? With smells, with sometimes intense or endearing memories of meals past, or of people that taught you how to cook, or that you ate that food with together. But in addition to the personal and the familiar, every meal, and as we talk about rice and beans, is also part of a long cultural tradition that's developed over time with the people who've been there in a particular place or in many, or people who showed up anew in a place that meal did not exist before. And beans, as I said earlier, the kinds that are most common, especially in this hemisphere, are native to the American continent. Many of them, although there's, as with anything in terms of history, archaeology, there are any number of arguments and all sorts of evidence that could be confounding, whether it's pollen or excavations, but it's pretty well accepted because of a lot of genetic studies that a lot of the beans that we consume really come from right around Mexico, right, in the northern part of Central America. And then they spread throughout the continent, much like corn, which is what used to complement beans in the past. What's more, once maize or corn, what we know as corn now, really became essentially what it is now, with the big corn cobs, with lots of very big corn fruit, right? Once that happened and people started cultivating it more intensively, they did not just grow corn by itself like we see in a lot of fields now, but in fact, they would grow beans right around the base, because beans, before they became bush beans now, they would basically support themselves on the corn stalk. And then to keep a lot of pests from eating both of these staple meals, which were really important, they would also plant squash around it. So the squash made it harder for critters to get around and try and get all of these very valuable sustaining foods. And that combination has become, especially in Central America, northern Central America, what's called Mesoamerica, but really throughout, it became the way people survived for thousands of years. And one of the great things about corn when mixed with beans is that corn by itself doesn't have all the components that you need for a complete protein. But when mixed with beans, they do complement in such a way that it's a complete protein, so you don't have to depend on animal protein for sustaining your livelihood. And that is pretty important because, especially when you have to hunt or before domesticated animals were really prevalent, or because your wherewithal did not allow for domesticated animals to be part of your daily staple, but only for special times, you were able to sustain your life and your activities with rice, with corn and beans.
We have a quick question from Jennifer. Do you rinse the beans from the can?
No, I do. I responded to her. I said, no, I just opened the can and I drained the liquid into the 2 cups of water for this recipe. So I don't. I just leave it the way it is. It's faster. If you're doing real beans, we can ask Elba. She might be able to tell us if she rinses her beans or not, but this one's in the can, I don't. Now the rice is starting to see the bubbles and you see little holes. Then I don't like adding the beans at the beginning because I feel the beans get too soft and smooshy, and I like the texture to it to be a little bit on the hard side. So if you wait and add it just at the end, they taste better to me. So, and they don't get too smooshy and the rice gets nice and fluffy and dry. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm going to add the beans to this. I will stir. Can you see what I'm doing here? I believe in stirring completely. I don't like when people throw stuff and just go, oh, that's it. I like to make sure that everything is mixed together well. I will leave it like that for a second. And Manuel can keep speaking about the tortillas. I will cover this and I will turn it down. I'm going to try to leave it a little bit higher because of time, but usually I turn it low and then it will be, after that is done. While this is going on, Manuel can talk about more about the tortillas, and I will start with the microwave version of the rice and beans. So I wait one more second. You see how the little bubbles start to come up and little holes in the rice and beans? Then it's almost ready to be covered. So I will make sure I turn this down now, and I will turn it down. I have a gas stove, so if you have electric, it might be a little bit different. I remember that. So just keep in mind, if you go low, it will take a little bit longer, but it will be okay. So I'll leave this here for the microwave version, so I can put it in the microwave, and then Manuel can talk about his tortilla making. For the microwave, what I will do is I have 1/4 cup of water. I will add the garlic. I add the salt again. It's up to you, but for the microwave, I found out butter works better. I'm not sure why, but it works better for me when I cook with in the microwave. And then I just put it in the microwave for 2 minutes. Remember, if you have a newer microwave, it might be faster. But I'll put this one for 2 minutes to warm up, and then Manuel will talk about more about tortillas.
We have one more question. From Patty. Can you use another type of beans, or is this recipe just
That's
for
what I was going to say. Hold on.
Up here.
There.
You worry about that.
So for that, you can use any kinds of beans. I like kidney beans. I like black beans. I follow the same procedure with all the beans. At the end of the PDF, you'll see that I have a little statement in different pictures, because after you make the rice and beans, honestly, I've been practicing. So I have rice and beans for in the morning. I mix them with eggs. I had them in the middle of the day, and I added chicken, and I added spinach. So I sauteed that first, and then I added the rice and beans with the scrambled eggs. I started cooking the scrambled eggs, and then I added the rice and beans. So it just depends what you like, but you can add anything to it after it's made. So you can create a salad, you can put it on top of lettuce, spinach, so it's up to you. And that's why I find this recipe handy, because I get home and I'm hungry, but I don't want it a big meal, but I want something from home, or when I'm missing home, I make some rice and beans. Usually in Colombia, I'm from Colombia, we use kidney beans and different types of beans, not black beans a lot in the region I'm from. So, but I love rice and beans, and I love black beans. So I use them the most. So cooking, the microwave will be done.
This is a rice and series event, yet I'm talking about corn, right? And it just so happens that corn, when mixed with beans, as I said before, makes a more complete protein. Well, that happens with rice, right? And so when does rice show up in the American continent? And as you might have guessed, it's right after people came over from Europe, right? They brought it to the Americas. But for many centuries, and even to today, lots of people still depend largely on corn to complement the beans. And one of the wonderful things about corn is that, yes, you can make tortillas. These that I'm palming, this is not something that, well, some people I'm sure can make it very quickly. 25 years trying to make a good tortilla, and I'm still not doing it. But you'll see a video of somebody who's impressive if you follow the recipe that we're sharing in the PDF. But see, so this is basically just ground corn that's nixtamalizado, meaning it's been soaked in lime water to soften and to take, it's an alkaline solution basically that makes it easier to digest and add some nutritional value. So I'm going to put it in just a regular pan. Normally, this would be either a clay or metal comal, but then, so that's a tortilla. In South America, you got an arepa. This is from ajo and cilantro, and I'm not getting any money from them, but they're delicious, and now you got it. They're awesome. This is a bean arepa with their 3 sauces. And then you also see that there are 3 different kinds of masa or corn flour that you can get. This is the one that you get for making tortillas, or this is the one that you get for making tamales, and this is making tortillas with yellow corn instead of white corn, which is also very common.
So going back to the microwave version, make sure this is going to be hot. So here is the water with the salt and the butter. What I will do is I add the half a cup of rice, and then I'll stir, and I'll put it in the microwave for, my microwave is 5 minutes. So your microwave might be less. So you put it back in for 5 minutes. And you wait. That's why the microwave version is less involved in a way. But honestly, I tried 3 times and it tastes the same as making it this way. So it's easier because it gives you time to go and do something else. Manuel, you want to flip your tortilla?
I'm not sure.
We're making sure we don't burn the tortilla. So I think this will be done pretty soon, another minute. There's Manuel's tortilla. He just.
Yeah. And this one I made with yellow corn flour.
Okay. And this can accompany the rice and beans too. I mean, no, it's too many carbs, but you can do the tortilla, put some cheese, put some rice and beans, and it will taste great.
Or you can have a pupusa. This is Salvadoran pupusa. And the trick about this tortilla is that in the middle, there is cheese. So that makes it magical. And in El Salvador, these are, of course, Salvadoran in origin. You get them all over the world now, but basically, this is like a national sport. And you can even get some pupusas that are made with rice flour, which is amazing because, I mean, it's sort of coming around in a circle again, right? Where you can get the corn or the rice flour tortillas to make a pupusa. And it's fantastic either way. I think I'm burning my tortilla, so I'm gonna try and flip it. And this is kind of how it should look, how a tortilla should look. And of course, I'm doing it on a pan, on a regular Teflon pan. But the texture of how I make my tortillas is a little hard. And that's the secret, because the people who really know how to make tortillas, these are tender. They're nice and soft in a way that after all these years, I haven't been able to.
Okay, so I'll suggest go to page 6, I think, of the PDF and look for on the top where it talks about tortillas, and then there's a photo of Eva. She made a small video for us of her making the tortillas, and we can have Manuel demonstrate again how he makes these tortillas, because it's a skill. And a lot of people don't take things for granted, things like that. It's years of making tortillas, and it's beautiful how she starts and then she makes it. So I'll recommend, you can click on it right now if you like, or later on look at it and you'll see.
Yeah,
So
much better version of what I'm doing.
yes,
For sure.
if you see me make arepas, I put my culture into shame because I'm very bad at it. For this rice on the stove, it's done. So here's the rice. So here is the rice. It's done. I will take it out and I will put some in the pan and on this bowl and let it cool off. But to me, rice has to be fluffy. Doesn't have to be sticky. I don't like sticky rice, except if the recipe calls for it. But for me, this is the type of rice that I like. I'll put some in here and let it cool off. The microwave are still cooking, and it should be, I should stir it in a couple minutes and put it back in again. So this is the rice and beans. I don't know how long it took us, 12 minutes to 15 minutes, and it's done. And honestly, I love it. It's delicious, not because I made it, but it's good. So I'll put this here to cool off, and then we wait for the rice and bean, Manuel.
So while I'm palming this last tortilla that I'll demonstrate for you, also wanted to let you know a little bit about rice and beans, right? Because I prefaced that rice is not from the American continent. Actually, there's a lot of, once again, controversy as to where it really comes from. It could come from India or China, and there's both camps with plenty of evidence to convince you that their position is the correct one. But in fact, you know, it's debatable. And so I'm not going to take a position on that. However, the one thing that is clear is that rice came to the American continent right around the same time that the Portuguese brought slaves from Africa to the American continent. And it should be known that black-eyed peas, for example, are a bean that is native to the African continent. And that the rice was brought in even by about 5,000 years ago, was already being grown in part of the African continent after it developed wherever it did. And that rice and beans was actually a staple of a lot of people who were brought to the American continent against their will. And so not to be on the, you know, it's to recognize that there's a heritage that comes along with this meal that we consider part of our daily culture all over this continent, that has an origin that is really also about other people coming to this continent and enriching our lives, our daily lives, in fact.
So now 5 minutes went by, and I'll show you. I forgot to say you cover not the whole bowl of rice, but you cover part of it. And can you see? Then I'll stir again, and I'll put back in the microwave for another 5 minutes. So while this goes on, I will introduce Kaylin, and he had 5 more minutes. Kaylin and her mom, Elba, she was a personal chef, and she's gonna show us a beautiful way of making rice and beans is Cuban beans, and is the same way they make beans in Colombia. It's very involved. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of ingredients. Thank you, Kaylin, for doing this, and thank you, Elba, for doing this. Mil gracias.
You're welcome.
So this is my mom.
Hi.
She's from Cuba originally, grew up in Miami, but we're in Pittsburgh. And then we're gonna show you how to make traditional Cuban rice and beans and how to plate them. Yeah, from scratch. So what we're gonna start off, we're not doing this right now because it takes a long time, but usually we soak the beans overnight in a pot of water, but there's no water there.
But pick through the beans when you get them dry. Pick through them because sometimes, like you can see, there's some little bad beans or some stones, and you want to make sure that you're eating only beans. So you soak them overnight, and I cook it in a slow cooker. So I have the beans already tender. It takes about 3 hours. You soak them overnight, empty that water, and then you put fresh water and the beans just to cover in the slow cooker. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
Can you see that? The steam will fog it up. So when the beans are ready, you'll know this because if you take a spoon and scoop some out and press it with a fork, you can see that they mash. See how they mash? So you know that they're ready, that they're tender. So for that, we're preparing a sofrito, which is what's going to season the beans. In the beans to cook, I forgot, you add a piece of green pepper, like maybe a quarter of a green pepper, and a bay leaf, and you cook it with that, and that adds to the base of the flavor.
So those beans have been in there for 3 hours?
For about 3 hours, yeah.
After you soak them overnight?
After I soak them overnight.
Okay.
So now I'm starting the sofrito. I chopped a couple of slices of bacon. You can get the bacon bits. I usually get bacon bits, but it's about 2 tablespoons of chopped bacon, and you render the oil, and you can see that when they're about at this point where they're nice and crispy and rendered, then you add, I already chopped a quarter of an onion, yellow onion, quarter of a green pepper, quarter of a red pepper, and this is 2 garlic cloves diced fine. So we're gonna add this to our pan. You hear it sizzle.
It smells so good.
And this is the sofrito. A lot of Cuban cooking has sofrito in it. And then you just stir it around on medium-high heat. And you can hear it sizzle. And then you're gonna cook that till it's tender, till the onions and peppers are soft and translucent. Stir it around a little bit. And in the meantime, I am making, to accompany the dish, which will be with white rice and the beans, I'm making chicken cutlets. There's the rice. We made that a little while ago. And then the chicken cutlets, I get the thin slice and I put it in a baggie, and I'm going to pound them so that it makes them a little thinner and much more tender. See how it's spreading? Oops, I went too far there and I broke the skin. It's not necessary to hit it too hard. So it's nice and thin now. And I will, yeah, show the sofrito, okay. Started this already. Well, this is what the chicken looks like when it's cooked. But I just season it with a little bit of salt and pepper on each side, and we're good to go. So
Do you season the chicken before you cook it or after?
I do. I season it before. I don't know. My mom always told me to season the meat before you cook it. The sofrito is a little dry, so I'll add some olive oil, and that lowers the temperature for just a moment, and then it comes back up. So you can see how the vegetables are a little more intense in color. from the sauteing in the bacon and olive oil. Now, when they're about this, maybe a little bit longer, but because of our programming of the herbs and spices. So I will add about a teaspoon of oregano, a teaspoon of ground cumin, and a teaspoon of smoked paprika. So I like to let the sofrito go a little bit longer, but for the sake of time, maybe like another 2 minutes, but for the sake of time, we'll add it now. So we'll add these in and continue to cook it those other 2 minutes. And it'll be really fragrant.
I can smell it through my mask.
So after 5 minutes, the second set, the rice pretty much ready the way I would like it to be. See, it's starting to get fluffy. So I will stir the rice and then I will add just the beans. I drained the juice from the beans before, and then I'll just add it to this bowl. I'll mix it again. Remember, I mix everything. Oh, the sous chefs. And then I'll put it back in the microwave for 3 minutes, and it should be ready. And then we can make a comparison with the stove-made beans. And then Elba I'll put it back in, and Elba can continue talking about her sofritos. A little bit hot, so make sure you don't burn yourself. And then I'll put it in for 3 more minutes. Okay, Kaylin and Elba, back to you.
Okay. So
the sofrito is almost there. As you can see the color with the smoked paprika, how it made it so intense. So we'll leave it a few more seconds. I lowered the heat because I'm gonna finish the chicken here. And so I just for time's sake, I mixed the salt and pepper together in a little bowl and just a little sprinkle. The pan is already hot, so I'll put this in. And it'll cook really fast because it's so thin. And then I'll season the other side while it's in the pan. And that's on a medium-high heat. And it's very thin too. So it'll cook really quickly, you'll see. So in the meantime, we will add the sofrito to the already cooked pre-soaked beans. Be careful, Kate. Let me just put this aside. I'll bring this down a little. Oh, before I forget, come here, Tina. Sorry. I'll add a little bit of water to the sofrito just because they're a little dry. It's a little dry. And you see how it sizzles? My mom used to take the water from the beans, but I don't have a ladle right now, so I'll just put tap water. And you can see how it's all saucy. See how it's saucy? Okay, and then we'll take that to the pan, to the pot of beans, and add that in. And get all that goodness out.
the bird bits are the best part.
Yeah. And then that's it. You stir it in. Stir it in. And maybe we can take that to a better light so that we can see it. Here, hold it over here. I'll bring it here to better lighting so you can see what it looks like in the slow cooker. See that?
Yum.
And then the chicken is ready to flip. You can see how white it's become around the edges. It's ready to flip. It has that nice gold glaze color. Leave it on that side. We've already cooked some ahead, so we'll go ahead and plate. And what we do is
What kind of rice is this one?
This is just basmati, white basmati. And it's nice because it always stays loose. But it doesn't matter. If you go to a restaurant, they'll mold this. They'll put it in a little bowl and mold it. And I'll need a spoon. we'll take the beans. It's best if you leave it a little longer to cook, like another 10 minutes or so after the sofrito. But again, for time's sake. And we put about that much so the rice is nice and wet. And then a chicken cutlet on the side. And then we will slice some avocado.
That's my contribution.
And then maybe if you like, just for if you're having company, you could put a little sprinkle of parsley on the chicken. And that is a Cuban rice and beans from scratch.
It's so pretty. And usually we'll eat it with tostones, which are fried plantains.
So, but our avocado salad is very common in Cuban cuisine. So you'll see how pretty that looks. And then maybe a little drizzle of lime. And that's it.
Ta-da!
We
That
had
looks-
another question.
Yes, that was, yeah.
Real quick from Amber. Amber says, lots of chefs rinse/soak rice. Do you soak your rice or do you know what that does?
I don't soak the rice. I just put it right in. I boil the water. I usually do about 2 cups water to 1 cup rice. Basmati stays rather loose. So this was a lot of rice today. And it was 2.5 cups water to 2 cups rice. And then I add a teaspoon of salt and that's it. Cover it up, bring it to a boil. And then I turn it off when it comes to a boil and leave it on the burner. And in about 20 minutes, it's ready.
For us, for the part that I'm doing, in Colombia, usually we do the same as Elba. We add the water, boil it, and add the rice. For my purpose, I always saute it first, so I don't rinse it. I saute it, and that's what I do. But you can do that too. I finished the microwave, the rice and beans in the microwave, and here it is. I could have put it another minute, but for sake of time, here it is. It looks the same as the other rice and beans. And I'll show you. Wait, let me see. Can you see it? So this is the microwave, and this is the one on the stove. As it gets cooler, it gets fluffier. See how it's not sticky, it's nice and fluffy and separates. That's how I like the rice and beans, and this is how I end up when I won't touch this one because it's hot from the microwave, but at the end it will be the same. So this is the 2 versions of rice and beans on the stove and the microwave, and they taste great. To this, you can add other stuff. You can add cilantro, you can add a tomato and a splash of lemon, some salt and pepper, and you have a whole brand new meal. Manuel, anything about the rice and beans, or should we go to Luis Bravo?
Yeah, because we have other culinary experts, or at least fanatics in our midst, and we have other ways of doing rice and beans, because ultimately, as I said earlier, it really is about where you are, where you're from, what your traditions are, and what you find around that tastes good with the basic staple, right? So I think that you will really enjoy the Luis Bravo version of rice and beans, because it comes along with a lot of other goodies, much like what Elba just did. That comes along with a lot of other goodies, and it has its own character.
Yes, Luis Bravo. He makes delicious feijoada. So I'm a witness of that. So I'm very honored that I have and he makes a vegetarian version where he can talk about what he's going to do. Luis?
So you can see it right here, the feijoada that I made, from beginning to the end product that you get in there. So I started with a lot of, like the feijoada is has a lot of tradition in Brazil. It started with actually the slaves, and they actually got the remaining of the foods, and so different types of cuts that the owners did not use it to get to them, and they will actually cook it in there. But it has a lot of variations in Brazilian culture, and different regions will have different things that they will have for the beans as well. Sometimes they, like in Rio, where I'm from, most of them will be using black beans, and I think Minas Gerais too. But in other parts of Brazil, it might really change the style of it. So if you can just see, like just in the photos, I start lots of meats with ham hocks. Like in Brazil, they would use like tails, they will use ears, they will use all kinds of different cuts of the meat. But of course, this is like more in the homes that they will do this. In most of the restaurants, they will not do that. They will actually use prime cuts and different things like that as well. But there's a whole process that you can see and is accompanied with this. What I use this as collard greens, and that's cooked in bacon and with onions and some spices in there as well. And the collard greens, when they are cooked, they become kind of like this, a little bit wetter and connected. And the rice is also, you use like the oil or butter, whichever you prefer, with an onion. You put some condiments in there too, fry with the rice. And as you're frying with the rice, then you add the water into that and let it cook for a long time. And again, this is my recipe, but there's so many different variations of that. But the plates generally look very similar, different cuts. It's generally served with the oranges because it is a very heavy food. So you actually need the oranges to help with the digestion. And the beans are generally covered. You see the little flour that's on top of it. That's is actually made out of yuca or cassava. And it's actually a fried kind of flour that, you know, this one is just a simple one, doesn't have any things, but in Brazil, sometimes would put eggs, olives, a variety of different things in there. So actually, I am gonna enlarge it really quick so that you can give a look at it too. So the final plate, as you can see it in here, you can see the different parts of it, and generally they're cooked in a different types of pots that are ceramic, and they'll cook it for the whole day. They'll cook it for a long time. So I use actually canned beans because it takes way too long. You have to actually put the beans, just like the Cuban meal. You have to actually select the beans and then make sure that they stay overnight in water so that they can be soaked and you can actually use it. My wife actually uses the pressure cooker to do a lot of the beans and things like that, so that it can be a little bit faster. But that's kind of like an overview of that. So, and you know, if you have any questions about the history and anything, I'll be happy to talk. But there's a lot of materials also in the web as well, if you want to give a look at that.
Luis, I have a quick question.
Go for it.
So Luis mentioned you also make a vegetarian version.
Yes.
How would you make this vegetarian?
So I use a lot of veggies for doing the vegetarian one. And instead of using like a lot of it, you can see like using bacon and using different things. So instead of that, I will use a vegetable oil or sometimes even a coconut oil to be able to set up the cooking. And I actually do set up like the condiments. I generally, with the vegetarian one, I will add a little bit more condiments to bring out a little bit more of the flavor and everything of the feijoada. So I do have a recipe for that, and I haven't done it for a long time. But since we have some members of the staff that are vegetarians, I very likely will be making some of the vegetarian feijoada at some point. So I'll send it back to Luz to talk. Unless anybody has any other questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Luis. Can you sum up to Jessica? Now Jessica Kraft will talk about arroz con habichuelas and the process of it.
So arroz con habichuelas is a very typical dish in Puerto Rico and with Puerto Rican families here in the US. So it's started a lot the same as the Cuban black beans. So we start with some olive oil and like bacon, or you can use pancetta, some sort of like chopped ham or pork. Fry it until it's crispy. And then we add a sofrito, just like Cuban rice and beans. But our sofrito is a bit different. We use cilantro, culantro, or it's also called recao, and it can be found in Asian grocery stores in the Strip District. It has 1 to 2 green peppers, a yellow onion, lots of garlic cloves, and then I haven't found any sweet peppers. They're called ají dulce or ají cachucha, but it's like a sweet pepper. And you add everything to a food processor and make it until it's a paste. And so you add that sofrito. It's used in many Puerto Rican dishes, such as stews, beans, like arroz con habichuelas, rice dishes like arroz con gandules, and pasteles also, which are like Puerto Rican tamales, and they're eaten at the holidays. You can easily freeze and unfreeze sofrito and use it until it starts to get freezer burn, probably like 2 to 3 months. So you add the sofrito, which is the third picture, and then you add about a half cup of tomato sauce and cook it a little bit to make it into a paste. You add, I put 2 cans of red kidney beans last night, but you can do pink beans, like the little pink beans. And then you add tropical pumpkin, calabaza. You can also find it in Asian grocery stores in the Strip District. And then you cook it for a while, about 40 minutes. I like the sauce to be really thick. So that's like the second to last picture. I didn't have any rice last night because we ate it all. But that last picture is the beans with the pumpkin. So the pumpkin is more savory. It's not like, it's not kind of sweet like butternut squash. Gives it a nice flavor. And yeah, that's arroz con habichuelas.
Here is the one for the microwave. Oh, let me go that way. So here is the final product, it's the same. I could have cooked it another minute. Like I told you, my microwave is a little bit on the slow side, so it takes a little bit longer. Manuel, anything else?
No, basically, you know, it's wonderful to be able to share some of this with you all, and I hope that you enjoyed this experience along with us. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear any variations that you think we might want to trade recipes on, and maybe at some point, CLAS, the Center for Latin American Studies, can have, you know, a variety of rice and beans dish recipes and versions. There's a map at the end of the PDF where, you know, we put some of different dishes that are made with rice or beans or rice and beans or some combination that's local. Kaylin was great in making that for us. And we would love to add to that. We would love to add all those regional variations, all those recipes that are really special and meaningful, because with food comes a lot of culture, right? It's no accident that one of the first things that people recognize recent immigrants in a place for is their food, right? Their restaurants. And those traditions that come along with that, as I said, are not just you know, a point in time, but really are part of a long sequence and trajectory. And as such, we want to share that with you, and we would love for you to share it with us.
A couple of things. I will show you, and Luis will help me with this. There's a video of hogao, which is a Colombian version of sofrito, and it's only like scallions, tomatoes, any kind of onion, and the Colombian spices. If you can, it's hard to find those here, but you can add cumin, salt, garlic, all of that, saute it. And this is my brother making it. It's the fast version of it. So Luis, can you play it? So he starts. He adds all the spices to it. He adds the salt, also water, and he adds a little bit of water to it, the same way the Elba did with the sofrito. And this is the tortilla making, which I say, do you see the difference between Manuel and her style of making? You can see how fast she goes. It's an art.
And she makes every one of those tortillas is perfect every time, which is just astounding, especially to an amateur like me.
Can we have Manuel do a taste test of the two?
Oh, he
rice
did when
and
we
beans?
were not looking.
You haven't been watching what I've been doing the whole time, right? I ran out of
This one, oh, so here is the one for the stove. Wait, where's my thing? Yeah, there is that one, and that's the microwave.
I hadn't tried the microwave. I tried the stovetop one, and let's see. It's with my tortilla, so it might lose some of its sheen. But
You could stay in the microwave one more minute.
no, it's fine.
Ah,
It's good. The
okay.
rice is cooked all the way through. You can taste the beans. And the other one, you can feel the beans and the rice a little more, but it's good.
I just want to say thank you so much for putting all this together and all of the work that went into it. Everything looked delicious, and I think everyone learned a lot.
And thank you for sharing this time, because obviously this food is important to us. It means more than just, sustenance. There's a lot more that goes along with it. So thank you for sharing this time, and I hope that you can find some added meaning, and perhaps even some new ways of doing things and complementing your food. Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you. This was great.